Chair Harrington and board. I'll be off camera, Chair Harrington, so you know, for this meeting.
Right.
Thank you, Commissioner Fye. I'll be sure to call on you.
Madam Chair, you have your host of commissioners, and we have 2 of the 3 candidates, and we are ready to go. And I will keep a. Oh, and here is Mr. Weiss joining right now.
Okay, folks, good afternoon. Let me gavel us into the Washington County Board of Commissioners special meeting for the House District 30 appointments. There are some special procedures that I need to follow for today for this meeting. We are here today, this meeting of the Washington County Commissioners, to fill a vacancy for House District 30 due to the resignation of Representative Janine Solman. Before we go further, I would like to ask our Spanish interpreter to make a quick announcement regarding the interpretation that is available for this meeting. Thank you, Ruth. So at this juncture, thank you for that announcement regarding the availability of Spanish interpretation. For anyone wishing to participate in this meeting in English, please find the globe icon at the bottom of our screen and select the option for English. And I'll wait while we all do that. Thanks, everyone. So pursuant to ORS 171.060 sub 1 and OAR 165-010-60, county commissioners were notified of this vacancy on January 20th. The Democratic Party precinct committee persons of State House District 30 met and chose nominees to fill the vacancy. The nominees chosen are Barry Johnson Smith, Nathan Sosa, and Lamar Weiss, and all 3 of them are here with us today. We, as the appointing authority, are here today to appoint one person from this list of nominees. The vacancy must be filled no later than Tuesday, February 22nd, 2022, 30 days after the vacancy occurred. I, Catherine Harrington, the chair of the Washington County Board of Commissioners, have been asked to chair this meeting by Oregon Secretary of State Shemia Fegan. Before we start, Clerk Moss, could you please take the role of the county commissioners?
Absolutely, Madam Chair. Commissioner Fye.
Here.
Commissioner Rogers.
Here.
Commissioner Treese.
Here.
Vice Chair Willie.
Here.
Chair Harrington.
Here. Thank you, Clerk Moss. So the process of today's meeting has to proceed along some very set lines as laid out by those rules and regulations I mentioned earlier. First, we'll have an opportunity to hear from members of our community regarding the nominees, followed by opening statements from each of the nominees, questions from commissioners, and finally, closing comments from the nominees before deliberations and a vote by the county commissioners with our choice. Our staff support here, you've heard from our great Washington County Clerk to the board, Kevin Moss, and our County Counsel, Tom Carr, for Washington County is also here with us. It's now time for public comment, and we've set aside 20 minutes for this portion. Please note we have many people signed up. So the clerk has asked that we keep your comments to 1 minute. So I thank you for that. I know it's a lot to say in 1 minute. We have also received a great deal of written correspondence as well. So Clerk Moss, would you please ask if anyone has comments regarding any of the 3 nominees before us?
Yes, Madam Chair. First up, we have Ron Berndsen. Ron, can you hear us?
I can. Thank you.
Please go ahead.
Yes, Chair, Commissioners, thank you very much for the opportunity to appear before you. My name is Ron Berndsen. I'm the Executive Director for the Oregon Government Ethics Commission. I'd like today to speak on Nathan Sosa. I'd like to give my highest recommendation for Nathan. Nathan was with the commission from March 15th of 2017 till August of 2021. And he was the chair of the commission during 2020. As you can imagine, that was quite a challenge. And of course, elected by the other commissioners on the staff or on the commission. I can't remember him ever missing a meeting. He came always prepared. We give him a 200 to 500 page book for the meeting, and he always had notes and was well prepared for the meeting. He's a great listener. He works with everyone. It doesn't matter whether it's commissioners, attorneys, respondents. He was highly respected in the commission. Like I said, Nathan is really the epitome of a leadership, and I appreciated his time on the commission. Again, my highest recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Next up, we have Melissa Bovadilla. Melissa?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Melissa Bovadilla. I have been a Washington County resident for 20 years. I'm actually also a small business owner here in Washington County for the last 13 years. I advocate for the rights of consumers seeking to get justly compensated by the insurance industry and by those who have also committed negligent acts. I also represent immigrants in family-based immigration matters. Nathan Sosa shares the values of fighting for our community and for the least powerful in society. I have seen his leadership skills in action as we both are colleagues on the board of governors of the Oregon Trial Lawyers Association. As a talented attorney, Nathan could have chosen a variety of other lucrative legal specialties, advising the comforts of the comfortable and the powerful, but he did not. Instead, he has stayed true to his values and specialized in fighting for the underdog. He's a type of community leader we need representing Washington County at the Capitol. Now more than ever, diversity is important. It is important for the community to see the people of color like Nathan at the Capitol. Our community of color here in Washington County.
Thank you, Melissa. Next up, Madam Chair, we have Mark Watson. Mark?
Yep, hello.
Please go ahead.
Hello, Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to speak and for expediting this appointment process so that House District 30 is represented tomorrow when the legislative session begins. For the record, my name is Mark Watson. I am the current chair of the Hillsborough School Board, but I come to you today as a longtime resident of Aloha and House District 30. I am also a precinct committee person of the Democratic Party, and I have participated in the appointment process a couple of times over the last month, just like y'all have. No matter who we may have supported before the PCP election or even who we voted for, it's fairly clear which member of our party we'd like to see fill the remainder of the term being vacated by Representative Salmon. As the vote leader, I encourage you to appoint Nathan Sosa as the next HD30 representative. Thank you.
Clerk Moss, I can't hear you.
Darcy, can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay, please go ahead.
All right. Thank you for the opportunity to present testimony on behalf of Nathan Sosa. I've known Nathan in a professional business capacity, and over the years have seen firsthand Nathan support, listen, and advocate for small businesses in Hillsborough, all the while building his business. He understands the sometimes difficult road that we must navigate. Nathan has served with me on several different committees, and his capacity to not only serve his clients with the utmost of integrity and professionalism, Nathan's service on these committees has helped him connect and see the distinctive issues Hillsborough has in the arenas of education, business, and agriculture. Because Hillsborough has such a diverse business environment, it is important to have someone who has connection to the varied businesses in high-tech, agriculture, restaurants, hospitality, and sees to make Hillsborough more livable for all. I highly recommend Nathan for this appointment. Thank you.
Thank you, Darcy. Next, we have Erin Carlson. Erin, can you hear us?
I can, thank you.
Please go ahead.
I'm Erin Carlson, a lifelong resident of Washington County and a PCP. I've known Nathan for many years. He's the guy that says, I'll take care of it, and then does. He comes through. Nathan has done so much for Hillsborough and Washington County. He's volunteered for 7 years with the Hillsborough Schools Foundation, using his professional and personal network to raise money for our students. He served as HSF's president for the last 4 years and has demonstrated exceptional leadership skills. He's canvassed for people running for office. He's helped homeless youth. He's active in the Chamber of Commerce. Nathan's held government officials accountable, including a former governor, with his statewide service on the Oregon Ethics Commission. I know he will work hard for HD 30. Nathan received twice as many PCP votes as anyone else. This 2-to-1 support is outstanding and should be recognized. I'm grateful for people who step forward and are willing to do the work, come from backgrounds and life experiences different from my own. Today, I urge you to appoint Nathan Sosa. He's already been running for HD 30 for months and is supported by a clear majority. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Marcus Mundy. Marcus, can you hear us?
I can. Thank you. Thank you, Clerk Moss. My name is Marcus Mundy, and I'm here representing Building Power in Communities of Color. I'm the executive director of that 501c4 organization, and I'm here in support of Lamar Weiss. I've sent all 5 of you a letter in support of Lamar, so I won't read that, but I've worked with Lamar during my time as ED of BPCC, which almost exactly mirrors my other job at CCC. And I've worked with him at AFSCME, at Washington County Ignite, Reimagine Oregon, the Oregon Cares Fund, and countless legislative issues and updates. Let me just simply say he is smart, of the highest integrity, tireless, respectful, collaborative, and works for the people. He would represent the people of HD 30 well. He understands the issues, and he's a native son. I would like to give my unfettered recommendation and support for Lamar Weiss and Hillsborough's own and Washington County's own. He is high integrity, and he will deliver for the residents of that area. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcus. Next, we have Zach Martinson. Zach,
Hello.
please go ahead.
Good afternoon. My name is Zach Martinson, and I'm here today to encourage you to appoint Nathan Sosa. I'm currently a student at Lewis and Clark Law School, and I met Nathan through my school's mentorship program. Right away, I was met with curiosity, compassion, and interest in my future career. Nathan is the type of person whose leadership style personifies the old saying, "A great leader teaches others how to lead." Through Nathan, I've joined the Oregon Trial Lawyers Association, where I've had the opportunity to witness the incredible and inspiring advocacy and assistance he and his colleagues provide to Oregonians every day, and I'm eternally grateful for the experience. As a former vice chair of the Oregon Student Association, I've seen firsthand what does and does not make a great legislator. I've seen what it takes to truly represent a community and the kind of impact a great leader can have on their district. Nathan Sosa is that kind of leader, and House District 30 would be lucky to have him. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Zach. Next, we have Darren Golden. Darren, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and Commissioners. My name is Darren Golden, and I'm here to urge your support for Lamar Weiss for House District 30. Lamar is somebody who's ready to lead on day one of session with experience in the relationships necessary to move forward game-changing policy. Lamar has these relationships and a long proven record of advocacy in the legislature. We also need someone who can bring folks from all walks of life together to build holistic policy solutions for the county and for the state. Lamar can, has, and will do this. Lamar has a very long history of bringing stakeholders together in the numerous arenas in which he operates. Lamar's proven track record, leadership, and experience make him the right person at the right time. We need a balanced viewpoint in the legislature, one that will bring all sides together to work together. Thank you.
Thank you, Darren. Next, we have Ron Chang. Ron, can you hear us?
I can hear y'all. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right. Good afternoon, commissioners. My name is Ron Chang. I have the pleasure of working with Nathan Sosa with the Oregon Trial Lawyers Association. One of my favorite things about Nathan is that I know that if he's on the job, things get done. In fact, when they asked me to join the board in various committees, I always made sure that Nathan was going to join alongside me because he is a person that always does the work, does his homework, never seeks credit, and you can have full faith and credit in the substance of what he brings to the table. The best part is he is incredibly humble about everything that he's done. So I love that I get to brag about him today, especially with his work with Lewis and Clark law students and actually various students from all communities. He's helped create a awareness program to prevent texting and driving a few years ago. And he's also helping law students advance diversity through just the programs that the trial lawyers offer to represent underrepresented communities. So without that said, I can't endorse Nathan enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Next, we have Adriana Miranda.
Good evening, commissioners, Chair Harrington, Vice Chair Harris, and commissioners. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. For the record, I'm Adriana Miranda and honored to come before this committee today in my capacity as a community leader to advocate and support Lamar Weiss for House District 30. Mr. Weiss has deep connections and ties to this beautiful and diverse communities of House District 30. As a son, a brother, a friend, and a colleague, he knows firsthand the challenges of growing up in a community of systemic, structural, institutional, and interpersonal inequities. His devotion to his community roots have allowed him to empower himself and empower others in his community to make long-lasting, systematic changes for equity. In 2020, Mr. Weiss, along with community leaders, organized one of the most impactful grassroots movements in our state's history by bringing awareness to the Black Lives Matter movement. In 2016, I had the distinct honor and privilege to serve the constituents of House District 30, working with former State Representative Joe Gallegos as his Chief of Staff. I also had the distinct honor to work with Mr. Weiss, and I highly recommend him for House District 30.
Thank you, Adriana. Next, we have Michelle Hicks. Michelle, can you hear us?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, for the record, my name is Michelle Hicks, and I'm here as someone who is a community leader and who works in Washington County. And I'm here testifying today in support of Lamar Weiss. He's the only leader who, amongst the candidates, who is uniquely poised to serve right now. He has lived the lives of so many in the district as a brother, an advocate, a legislature, or as someone who's been working in the legislature for many years, a union organizer, an advocate, and more. I've worked with Lamar for a couple years, and in this time, I've been able to see him in many of these spaces. In my previous role at Apano, I was able to serve on many work groups with him, and I saw how thoughtfully he examined each of these issues and how they would impact each and every one of our community members and the lives that they lead. Never once did I have to ask Lamar to champion basic civil rights and policies that our communities really desperately need in this moment, because they were inherent to his beliefs and something that is desperately needed in the legislature. I'm asking you today to vote for Lamar Weiss for the future of Washington County and our state. Our communities can't wait any longer. Thank you.
Michelle. Next, we have Justice Rajiz. Justice, can you hear us?
Yes.
Please go ahead.
Thank you. I'm calling in today to express my support for Lamar Weiss. As a longtime Washington County resident and a person that's gotten to know Lamar and his work, I understand his commitment to equity, change, really being involved and engaged in our legislative processes and knowing not just what's important, but also that the process and how we get things done is important. Integrity, I believe you'll be a fantastic representative in bringing us into the next, what the future.
Justice, are you finished or?
Yes, I'm finished. Sorry, I try to be brief. Apologies. Okay. I know it's a whole minute. So yes, I'm finished. That's all.
We were having a little trouble hearing part of that. That's all. But I think we got it.
Awesome. Thank you. Apologies. I've bad internet connection here today.
Thank you.
All right. Next, we have Jacqueline Jones. Jacqueline, can you hear us?
Yes, my name is Jackie Dyke Jones, co-owner of Dyke Family Farm LLC, farmer in Roy Banks, North Plains, with my dad, Larry Dyke. Thank you, commissioners, for your time, and thank you, candidates, for your willingness to serve. We raise blackberries, blueberries, grass seed, wheat, and other rotational crops. The truth is, very few consumers really understand the economics and realities of farming businesses. I reached out to the nominees. There's so much happening fast legislatively that I constantly feel a heavy weight of unknowns that could devastatingly impact me and others in House District 30. Nathan Sosa understood and respected my urgency. He made the time to hear from a potential constituent. I'm in full support of the appointment of Nathan Sosa for House District 30. His value to hear multiple perspectives, openness to learn about agriculture, and his assurance to keep ag at the table for this district simply gives me the hope that's needed. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Next, we have Danita Harris. Danita, can you hear us? Danita, can you unmute? There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Wonderful. Good afternoon, Madam Chair Harrington and fellow Washington County Commissioners. My name is Danita Harris. I am the interim state director of the Oregon Working Families Party, and I represent communities in Washington County and throughout HD30. I've had the pleasure of working alongside Lamar over the past 7 years in a plethora of positions and capacities. He has been a longstanding educator, advocate, leader, and pillar in the community. In addition to his work on multiple coalitions and work groups, he is also intimately aware of the needs of small businesses as his mother owns one within the community. The reality is that Lamar is the only candidate that has the experience to start in this role literally tomorrow. He is well received and respected throughout the Capitol and beyond. As Washington County continues to grow, no one is better suited than Lamar Weiss to fight for the necessary policies for all of HD30. He is a representative of the people and the new leadership Washington County deserves. Thank you.
Callie, can you hear us?
Yes, now I can. Sorry. Okay, hello, my name is Kali Thornlad, and I am CEO of the Children's Institute and a former board trustee of Portland Community College, and I'm here in support of Lamar Weiss. The legislature has a huge impact on issues that impact children and families, and Lamar has the track record of working with them. He does an incredible job listening to different and diverse perspectives, and he also understands the role that both business and community organizations play in ensuring that communities at large thrive. He will hit the ground running to support Washington County and House District 30 from the beginning. And I believe he's exactly what Washington County needs to help support the ecosystem there, but also to support our children.
Thank you, Callie. Next, we have Nikiji Carmen Johnson.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, it's Nikenge Harmon Johnson. I am happy to be here to support the candidacy of Lamar Weiss. Chair Harrington, commissioners, you have a special opportunity in this moment, and that is to put leadership forward that reflects the community that you serve, that reflects the community that the Urban League serves. For more than 75 years, the Urban League has served all of Oregon and Southwest Washington to make this a community where African Americans can thrive. Now we see that increasingly Washington County is Blacker and browner than ever, and it's also younger. This is a time for you to say, our legislature should look like the people that it serves. Our community deserves a representative like Lamar Weiss, who has the experience, not only in boardrooms, but also in classrooms on the street with community members. Lamar is the kind of person who digs in when it's time to do work, both intellectually, but also with good old-fashioned elbow grease. You don't have a better choice before you today, and I hope that you will decide to select Lamar Weiss for this role. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, we have Alana Wilson. Alana, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great. Hi, my name is Ilana J. Wilson, and I am a community leader that works in Washington County. And I'm here to urge you to appoint Lamar Weiss to represent HD30 because he is the best candidate to lead this district during the legislative session that begins tomorrow. Lamar is a proven leader with over a decade of experience lobbying and advocating in both the House and Senate. He is the most experienced candidate in this race. He's ready to start first thing tomorrow, already aware of the legislation that is coming into this session as he's already working on it. Think about what is necessary to fulfill the rest of this term in the most effective way possible, and let all of the constituents decide in the fall who they would like to represent them rather than the few PCPs. I urge you to think of who will serve the rest of this term and be able to work effectively in the legislature for the people of Washington County, because that is what this district deserves. This is not a session that will be easy nor kind to folks who enter it without experience, as that person will have to spend almost all of their time
Thank you, Alana.
and catching up. Thank you.
Next, we have Emma Calloway.
Hello, thank you. I'm here today in support of Lamar Weiss for House District 30. I'm a board member at the Safety and Justice Oregon. This group is a coalition of voices that believe in common sense criminal justice reform, and we bring folks together, those who have committed crimes, victims of crimes, and the families of both. We often lean on Lamar to help us hear from community and bring voices together. Lamar listens to stakeholders and asks the hard questions. He is the highest example of integrity that I have had a chance to work with. I've served with Lamar in multiple organizations because there's no limit to Lamar's passion for the needs of his community. More importantly, Lamar is a consummate leader and he knows how to get the work done. I've had an opportunity to work with Lamar in Washington County on nonpartisan voter registration and civic engagement for youth. He's a consummate professional. When you're on a team with Lamar, he rarely speaks first. He's a listener, and by the time everyone else is done speaking, he's had a great idea and an opportunity to bring everyone together and move forward towards a common goal. He's the right decision for the legislature. He's the right decision for Washington County. Thank you.
Madam Chair, that takes care of all our pre-signups. Would any members of the public like to provide comment on these nominees? Please raise your hand. Right, not one additional hand, Madam Chair. Ricardo Lujan.
Thank you, Chair. Can you hear me?
Can.
Hi, my name is Ricardo Lujan Valerio. I am a Washington County resident. I'm here to support the appointment of Lamar Weiss for House District 30. I think we have a very unique opportunity here to be able to show not just Washington County, not just District 30, but the whole state, that we here in District 30 are willing, able, and committed to equity and bringing the right leaders to the building. We also have a great opportunity in the sense that we can see a track record already within the candidates presented in front of us. Lamar Weiss is no stranger to the work that happens at Salem. And we can look at the track record on how he supported healthcare interpreters in having livable wages, having the right circumstances, having the right approach to the issues that we face right now, especially during COVID. We've seen his track record on supporting hardworking residents of Washington County and really across the state, so that we are able to maintain a strong workforce here in our state. Lamar has the right track record to lead us through this short session, and I encourage you to appoint him for House District 30. Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. Not seeing any additional hands, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Clerk Moss. We'll now hear from each candidate, starting with the comments. We'll do it in alphabetical order. So we'll hear from Barry Johnson Smith first, then we'll go to Nathan Sosa, and then we'll finish up with Lamar Weiss. So take it away, Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Chair Harrington. Can you guys hear me today, right now? All right, cool, making sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Barry Johnson Smith. My pronouns are he, his, and him. Thank you, Chair Harrington, Commissioners, for me being part of this appointment process today. I'm a transplant to Hillsborough. I'm originally from Lawrenceville, Georgia, and I've lived here for the past 3 years working in the cybersecurity department at Nike. I really appreciate the people of this community supporting me and helping me make this area my home. I want to show my gratitude to this community by investing back into it. So that's why I'm running to be appointed as State Representative House District 30, I want to make sure that the laws and programs that are created to address challenges such as public safety, economic reform, and climate change are inclusive and address the needs of the various communities that make up this county and the state at large. We need to make sure that our legislative process are mindful of the impacts on different communities and make sure community inputs and concerns are centered. With my 7 years of experience in the DEI field, I've been working with institutions, businesses, and organizations to make them inclusive and supportive of their diverse populations. If appointed, I will bring that experience to the House and engage with different communities to ensure that this short session is one our communities can be proud of. Though I'm willing to serve, I do want to highlight that Lamar and Nathan are very amazing candidates and truly qualified to be state representative. Whoever is appointed House District 30 will be in good hands. As well, I also want to give a shout out to the fellow candidates. It is wonderful to see that all nominees represent communities of color. It's beautiful to see some color today. And it's a credible step forward for lawmakers to look like the people they're supposed to represent.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Next, we'll hear from Nathan Sosa.
Thank you, Chair Harrington, and good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Nathan Sosa. I've lived and worked here in Hillsborough for many years. I'm an attorney who helps people in our community stand up for their rights. I'm president of the Hillsborough Schools Foundation. I am an ambassador with the Washington County Chamber of Commerce, where I work to connect small family-owned businesses with the resources they need to weather the storm of COVID. I also serve on the Hillsborough 2035 Committee, where we work on issues including education, food access, and urban revitalization. And last year, I completed a 4-year term on the bipartisan Oregon Government Ethics Commission, where I'm proud to say that I was elected unanimously by my peers to serve as vice chair in 2019 and chair in 2020. I'm seeking the appointment for House District 30 because there are so many people in our community that are struggling. I know what they're going through. I've been there. I lived it. I saw it growing up in a biracial family. I know what it's like to have to move from apartment to apartment because they keep raising your rent. I know the fear of not knowing where your next meal is coming from. I know the frustration of having to work 2 jobs to take care of your family because your wages are just not keeping up with the cost of living. And as a caregiver for my disabled mother for many years, I know the financial stress that many of our seniors experience in their twilight years. But I also know the impact that good public policy can have on helping to lift people up. That's why I've devoted my career to fighting for working people. It's why I've lobbied in our state capitol for years for justice reform. It's why I volunteer with nonprofits in the Hillsborough area to improve education, to help homeless youth, and to protect our environment. It's why I'm seeking the appointment for House District 30. I want to be a voice for positive change, and I want to do everything I can to improve the lives of people in Hillsborough and throughout Oregon. Thank you.
And next, we'll hear from Lamar Weiss.
Hey everyone, again, my name is Lamar Weiss. I want to start off by saying thank you for the feedback during the Senate appointment. I believe that this appointment for House District 30 is about who will be ready to run a legislative office on day 1 of session. I know that I'm that person because I'm the only candidate here that has been passing bills since 2014. I've worked on over 80 bills and over a half dozen major agency budget requests, the vast majority of which have passed. I've worked on election law, education policy, public health funding, childcare, and housing policy. I'm uniquely qualified for this position at this moment because, as we know, the representative from House District 30 will sit on the House Committee for Behavioral Health and the Ways and Means Subcommittee on Transportation and Economic Development. My legislative priorities are centered on economic development and ensuring that the residents of House District 30 have access to family wage jobs. That's why I will continue to advocate for the creation of a gain share work group, essential worker pay, the governor's $200 million workforce package, and a $100 million package to expand our childcare system. These are policies our community desperately needs, and I'm ready to fight for them. I also know that our behavioral health system is overworked, and we've seen a rise in mental health issues as a result of the pandemic. I will center the workers who've been on the ground to help direct the targeted investments we will need for a full and healthy recovery. We need someone with the experience and the relationships necessary to make the most out of this short session that starts tomorrow. I'm ready to be that leader for our community, and I thank you.
Thank you to our candidates. Next, we're going to move per our agenda into questions from commissioners. And we don't have any set order for this. So at this juncture, I'm looking to commissioners to see if any of my colleagues have questions, and that includes Commissioner Fye, who is off camera. Go ahead, Commissioner Rogers.
Sure, I'll be brave and start first. Everybody likes to go last, but I'll start it. Two questions in whatever order you want to assign them, Chair. One of the things that has been very disappointing to me as an Oregonian in the last several years is how divisive politics has become. It's at the national level, it's just terrible, and it's that way in Oregon for many of the things I see. One of the advantages we have on the county commission is we're nonpartisan. And so we can work on issues free of having the political encumbrances of parties. What would each of you do? This is my first question. I'll ask my second in a minute. What would each of you to do to reach across aisles and make Oregon truly a state in which people work collaboratively instead of against one another? My second question is, frankly, you all know this isn't a well-paid job. It's a lot of work. It's one in which you are going to devote a ton of hours. And I'd kind of like to know your personal motivations. I've heard your speeches, and I think you did all well. But what really motivates you to run, as they say in the sports world, against the wall without a helmet? What's motivating you all to do that? So those are the two questions I have.
So why don't we give each of the candidates the opportunity to answer Commissioner Rogers' questions. I'll go in order of the alphabet first. So first to you, Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Commissioner Rogers, for that question. Like you said, during the past, like I say, 4 years, like in the country, things have got more divisive, people got more partisan, people can't see across the aisle. Coming in from my DNA experience, I know that personally, because being in Georgia, I have to deal with so many issues between different people in the political scene around issues around race, relations, we've got issues, things of that nature. What I've learned talking across the aisle is that people are frustrated or people are angry because their voices are not heard. People's needs are not being met. So coming legislative, I have that approach to understand all the sides people have on these issues, to understand why are they raging out, why are they upset, what concern they need to have, and work together with people across the aisle. And so how can we work together to make sure everyone's needs are addressed and understand each other? Because like when we all work together, we kind of see what we need, like we realize that we can all help each other out. And then for the second question, the reason I'm involved and want to get involved in this space is because I learned during when Stacey Abrams was running for governor of Georgia, I realized how much local politics matter, and seeing how much you have to local politicians make such a difference in the lives of those in the community. And when I had the opportunity to move here to Oregon and work for Nike, I was like, okay, I want to get involved here in Oregon. I want to be invested in the community. I want to learn how can I get work to help the local community get involved. And so that's why I'm running for this office, is like looking like being a state representative to be invested to listen to this community, understand what issues they need, and work with to help them out to address their concerns. I realize like being in the local government is where you make the biggest difference for people.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Mr. Sosa.
Thank you, Chair Harrington, and thank you, Commissioner Rogers, for your question. To address your first question, how do we reach across the aisle? I think we begin by acknowledging that people on the other side are there for the right reasons, that they're there because they truly want to help the community, and they bring a different set of perspectives and priorities. And so I think that what we do is we sit down and we find that common humanity. We find that common ground where we can. This is something that I do every day as an attorney. When I sit down and I reach across the aisle, so to speak, talking to my opponents, and we try to find common ground. It's what I do when I am working with folks in the community who have very different opinions than I do. On the Oregon Government Ethics Commission, it was bipartisan. I worked with people who had very different perspectives, but I respected them as individuals. I respected their motivations, and I thought, how can we come together and how can we bridge those gaps to try to do good for the people that we're trying to serve. As you can see from the breadth of supporters that I have, whether it's lawyers or business owners, whether it's urban or rural residents, one of the things that I always do is to treat everybody with respect and try to find that common ground that we can where we can work together. In terms of what motivates me, why am I running for this office? I'm running for it because when I, as president of Hillsborough Schools Foundation, in the early days of the pandemic, we heard heartbreaking stories about kids who were sent home for when the schools shut down, kids who were told to do distance learning and their family didn't own a computer. Or if the school provided them with a computer, they didn't have internet. And their parents were taking them to a McDonald's and they were in the back seat of a car logging onto the McDonald's Wi-Fi just so they could go to school. And many of them didn't have access to food because their breakfast and their lunch was served at school and everything is shut down. That hit very close to home for me because that's how I grew up. And I thought at that moment, I do a lot of work in the community with nonprofit. I want to do more. These problems are bigger, they're more complex, and I want to be a voice for positive change in Salem. Thank you.
Mr. Weiss.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, so not only have I've reached across the aisle, but I've passed policy that has been through a coalition of folks from both sides of the aisle. With my work at the Oregon Student Association, we constantly worked on policy that was nonpartisan because we knew that that's what was needed in order to build a strong coalition. In addition to that, when I worked on healthcare policy, I know that it's such a delicate sector that we needed folks from all walks of life to be a part of what we were trying to do. With that being said, in my experience, yes, absolutely, you have to listen. Yes, absolutely, you have to find common ground. And even before that, you have to do your homework, right? As an advocate, I would have to do my research and make sure that even before going into a legislative office, that we were making sure that we were also promoting the needs of their district, right? Their district is also my district. I want to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to uplift everyone within Oregon because we can't do this alone, can't do this with just one party. With that being said, what motivates me is my family, right? My mom is a small business owner. I've seen her, try to upkeep and her business through the pandemic. What also motivates me is my personal experience of couch surfing and making sure that I'm doing everything that I could to survive, as well as what I need to do to survive through ensuring that folks could have what they needed when I was working in higher education. So for example, when I was the executive director, I really wanted to make sure that we were feeding students, making sure that they got the mental health support as well.
Thank you, Mr. Weiss. Are there any other commissioner comments or questions, excuse me, at this time? Go ahead, Commissioner Willie.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, all three of you, for putting yourself out there, making yourself available to serve. And certainly, I appreciate Barry's comment about having a great candidacy of 3 individuals of color. And that's very important. We all certainly want to encourage and support diversity in our boards and our commissions, certainly in our legislature. So thank you for doing that. The question I have is, balancing the needs of public safety with reform-minded initiatives can be tricky. However, in Washington County, we have heard strong support from our voters that they are in favor of investing in our sheriff's office and ensuring that there's a strong public safety system in place. Our county is preparing for an ESPD levy renewal for our ballot, and we're hearing positive support for this as well. What are your views related to investing in and increasing investment to our sheriff's office and supporting law enforcement at the legislature to ensure that the agencies can carry out the services our constituents need and depend on?
So we're going to go in opposite order this time. So we'll start with Lamar Weiss, then go to Nathan Sosa, and then to Barry Johnson-Smith.
Yeah, thank you for the question. And this is an important question for me because over the past year, I've worked on a piece of legislation called Transforming Justice, which invests in transformative services, ensuring that folks who are coming out of the system get the necessary resources that they need to succeed. With that being said, it's not enough, right? We'll continue to need resources in order to build a strong public safety system that supports everyone. I also want to make sure that levies like the SPD levy pass, right? Because we want to make sure that we have the resources that we need in order to be successful as a county. And at the same time, I want to make sure that all the stakeholders, including folks that have, for whatever reason, been wronged by the police department, have the opportunity to voice their concerns. We serve everyone, and just like the sheriff's office, and just like I would be, we're all public officials. With that being said, I also know that there is a ton of research out there that has been done on what we can do to build on the current agencies and what we have in place. Through my work on transforming justice, I've worked with victim stakeholders as well as system stakeholders, which include law enforcement and the district attorney's office, to ensure that all voices were being heard and that we were putting together a policy package for this upcoming session that was a consensus piece. And so not only am I'm going to help to make sure that passes, but it'll be a part of my goal to make sure that some of the dollars that we receive from that come back here and that we're able to help the folks in most need in our district.
Mr. Sosa?
Thank you, Chair Harrington, and thank you, Vice Chair Willie. Appreciate the question. Police officers have a very difficult job. I say this as someone who has family members who are police officers. And it doesn't help the fact that 20% of police calls are due to somebody who is suffering from mental illness. My family has told me there have been instances where there have been mentally ill people that they aren't necessarily trained to know how to best help. They also have situations where you have homeless people who are throwing rocks at their car. And they pull over and say, "Why are you doing this?" I said, "Because I don't have anywhere else to stay. And I'm hoping you can take me into custody so I have a warm place to sleep and a meal." So I think that we need to fully support the work that our police officers are doing, but I think we also need to recognize that police officers are not and cannot be the solution to every public disturbance. We need to invest in our mental health. We need to invest in crisis management and other social work services that can help people who are in need. We need to invest in affordable housing and to ensure that we have a fully funded social safety net so that when you do have individuals who are needing these services, that it isn't the police who are responding. But there are other folks who are trained in those areas who can actually help them to allow our police officers then to focus on actually stopping crime. So I think that's a priority that our next legislator needs to fight for. Thank you.
Mr. Smith.
All right, thank you so much for the question. So I do believe the ESPFW should pass. When I come with passing it, though, we need to be very intentional on how we're funding the sheriff's office. Our police officers are work and do a lot for us and to keep our county safe. But like the other kind of said, the police officer should not be the first call for every situation, especially around certain situations that are not like really that violent or around mental health. So we really need to work on working together with all the stakeholders in the community, really see how that funding could be used to make the community safe and sound, and also for the other aspects as well of maybe like with the office around like the justice system or the jail, the juvenile system, making focus on like restorative justice to make sure to invest in those areas and make sure that criminals that do leave, they have the resources they need to get back to society and not come back in the system again. So I think it's very important that we need to invest in our office and make sure to get the funding they need, but we got to be very intentional to make sure that the work we're doing in that space is truly safe for everyone.
And I should apologize to you, Mr. Johnson Smith. I keep calling you Mr. Smith, and that is not correct.
It's okay.
I'm sorry. I will do better. All right. Thank you, Commissioner Willie. Do you have any other questions that you'd like to ask? Follow up?
Yeah, I do. I just one, and it's staying with the public safety, and it's a little bit more direct. Do you agree with the widely touted refrain nationally and here in Oregon to defund public safety enforcement? I realize it's probably not a yes or no answer, but I am looking for something that direct.
Oh, I'm holding everybody up because I haven't said anything about order. I am the problem here. We're going to mix it up. Start in the middle. First, Mr. Sosa, then Mr. Weiss, then Mr. Johnson Smith.
Thank you. No, I don't think we defund the police. I think what we do need to do is be mindful of where our public dollars are going. And I think that we need to work with the police and talk to them and say, of all the calls that you're receiving, how many of them are actually for a crime that is being committed? And how many of them are for things related to mental health and other disturbances that maybe your officers are not best qualified for? And really sitting down, bringing stakeholders to the table and figuring out, are we getting the best value for the public dollar that we're investing in this, to ensure that officers are not our stopgap for every situation that we face. So I don't think we defund them. I think we sit down and have a conversation about how we are best investing our public dollars in mental health, affordable housing, and public safety to ensure that we're serving the people as a whole. Thank you.
Mr. Weiss?
Thank you. I absolutely believe that we need to be reinvesting in our public safety system in a way that is not only smart, but is, again, accountable to the people. I want to make sure that when we have a public safety system, that it's a system in which everyone is held accountable, and also ensuring that that we do have targeted dollars and ensuring that there are alternative resources, right? Not only do we need those resources to make sure that folks who may be going through a mental health crisis is able to not only be able to be responded to, but that they get the help that they need in real time, but that we also make sure that we're building alternatives to incarceration. So, for example, I actually led a legislative policy that ensured that we did have $4 million for restorative justice grants to ensure that folks who were going through the system had the opportunity to do what they need to do in order to restore the community and the folks that they harmed. And so to your question, Commissioner, I really do want to make sure that that not only we're investing, but that we're investing in a way that we're looking at the data and that we're looking at what has happened in other countries that have improved their public safety system. I absolutely believe that it is on us as leaders to make sure that we are continuing to improve and find ways to best fit the needs of our communities as we see fit. And so I would love to work with you on that and make sure that that we're making those investments in a way that is community oriented and that we're taking the lead of folks from the ground.
Mr. Johnson Smith.
Thank you for that question. So when people really mean by come from defund the police, it comes from the fact that certain groups are very frustrated at how the police have handled situations around public safety in the past. For a group, a community or resource that's supposed to protect community, they have like caused harm. So it comes from the anger and frustration of a group of people or police officers supposed to protect the community, harming them and not being there for them. And so it really focused on, when I come from, is like maybe we're not focused on reallocating those funds and find a different way to make the community safe. Because the system that has been done for people for years has not worked for them. And it can cause a lot of damage too. I was in an incident at Georgia Tech where a colleague of mine got shot by the police, and it caused a devastating damage to the campus. And I had to work with the Georgia Tech executive leadership team to figure out how to fund and reallocate sources for de-escalation, how to handle issues around mental health and things like that. Because if there was someone like a mental health expert or social worker in that area, my colleague would have been still here today. So really looking at like, how do we look at, when it comes to the role of law enforcement and public safety, how do we have the adequate measures and resources to make sure people feel safe in the community? Because time and time again, the police officers have shown up in certain communities and have conduct acts of misconduct and got away with it, that has led to people wanting to advocate for defunding the police. So when you look at like, how can we put better relationship with these communities that have been hurt by the police and find ways to get the support that they need so they can trust law enforcement and the justice system.
Thank you. Commissioner Willie, is that okay? Commissioner Treese.
Thank you, Chair. I have a question, and it's very similar to a similar question that I asked during the Senate appointment. It's around gain share, but I am going to read it because I want to make sure that our candidates have the base knowledge that I'm coming from here. So, investment in economic development is often done through either investment in infrastructure that is needed to support industrial needs, or through giving up local government revenues through property tax abatements. These both have cost, so Washington County works carefully to ensure that we invest where there are benefits to existing companies as well as to new ones, and that provide the local workforce opportunities in long-term, well-paid work. One important piece of this investment is repayment for some revenues that are lost through the state's gain share program. Gain share is a part of the partnership between the state and the county, where a portion of the state's increased income tax revenue from the new jobs are provided to the local governments. As our county is working to determine how we can continue to meet the needs of the community through our strategic planning, we need to know what revenues we will have to provide for our community goals. Can you commit to supporting efforts to continue this shared investment by extending the gain share program as a member of the legislature? Thank you for allowing me the long-winded question.
Okay, we'll go in the order of Mr. Johnson Smith, Mr. Sosa, and then Mr. Weiss.
Thank you, Mr. Truth, for that question. Yes, I do support gain share. I really do like the program because it's a really good balance of like, how do you incentivize businesses coming to Oregon and provide them incentive like around reducing property tax for them to come and build jobs here, but also making sure that you as the local government benefits from that, and that money comes back to the state and help fund the people in the county. I know for some programs or certain states, when they bring new jobs and new corporations in, those new jobs might not really benefit the community or might not go to them. So really cool that there's this program in place to make sure funding revenue from these businesses come back into the state. I know has done great benefit for the county by funding infrastructure around schools, as well as helping out with the career technical education program, which makes the citizens here qualify for some of these major industrial jobs. My focus would be, as well extending it, like looking at how could we focus this funding to address current issues around like homelessness and COVID, and see how can this gain share funding could be used for other pressing issues that are concerned right now.
Thank you, Mr. Sosa.
Thank you, Chair Harrington, and thank you, Commissioner Treese. Yes, I fully support extending gain share. Using tax abatement is an essential tool in helping to encourage businesses to come to our area and to open up shop here. I think that the county pays a tremendous price in doing that. And I think if you remove gain share, then what incentive does the county have? to encourage those businesses to come to Oregon and thus benefit the entire state through the added revenue that we get from income taxes and otherwise. So I think that it is essential. I think also the fact that right now, Washington County gets approximately $16 million a year in gain share funds. If those are removed, that is going to have a devastating effect on the county budget. And a lot of the services that serve the folks in Washington County are going to be compromised. And so I think that we need to continue to extend gain share. Absolutely. We need to realize on the state level that we are all serving the same constituents, whether it's the state level, the county level, or the city level. And I think that we need to work collaboratively and together to ensure that the county is receiving its funds to provide the essential services that it does, and that the state is also doing its part to support the work that's being done at the county as well as the city level. So I think that I would absolutely support extending gain share for all the great work that Washington County is doing, including the $2 million that they've invested in pedestrian and bike lanes in their schools. So essential things like that need to continue, and we need to fully support our counties in that effort.
Thank you, Mr. Sosa. Mr. Weiss.
Yes, thank you. So as I said before, I'm in favor of extending the gain share program. Not only that, but I have offered to this commission and to the residents of Washington County a work group to get this started in a real way. As many of you know, the legislature works in terms of building coalitions and through robust conversation. We can do that through this work group where we can bring local leaders together. I would love to have folks from this commission on, as well as leaders from outside of the county, from both sides of the aisle. And the reason why is because, in speaking with some of my potential future colleagues, we're having to fight back against the narrative of, why should we continue to give, handouts to Washington County? They're so robust and they're thriving already. And at the same time, we need to make sure that we continue to be the economic engine of the state. And we can only really do that by bringing people together in a way that the legislature is used to and knows how to, and building a strong coalition of diverse folks. And that's why, my work group would also include community leaders, and making sure that we're also meeting the needs of the community, whether it relates to transportation, small business resources, right? Like some of these dollars could be spent on technical assistance and trainings for those folks, as well as, this could be another way that we invest in our childcare infrastructure in the county. And so I do believe that this is something that needs to be extended, and we have to do it in a smart way, in a way that brings people together. Otherwise, I would fear its passage in the future. And so I urge you to allow me to do that work with you all, because I do think that's what will be needed.
Thank you, Mr. Weiss. Commissioner Fye, would you like to ask any questions?
Sure. I feel like the candidates have been so far put to the ringer. I appreciate your answers and the questions that the other three commissioners have so far asked you, especially Commissioner Willie's direct question about defund the police. That was really brave and a good answer to hear your answers. My question is really, it's a very low lift question in terms of the answer, and it's a very easy question to answer to. And the reason why I'm asking this isn't a prepared one, but I kept thinking throughout your answers what one legislator once said to me, which was describing the dynamic between local government and the state legislators. And I think I might correct me if I'm wrong. She used an analogy where the state is a big pond, small fish, and local government are the big fishes in the small ponds. And that stuck with me. And I'm wondering what your plan of engagement is to local government, that is county commissioners, us here, that you're seeking the appointments from, and then the cities that you're going to represent in your district. So I'm wondering what your plan of engagement is, and how do you plan to, I appreciate hearing the answers about the gain share. That's one way to expand our pond, but what are your plans to, get resources to your district from the state level.
We'll go in the order of last names, Johnson Smith, then Sosa, then Weiss.
Thank you, Commissioner Fire, for this, for the question. So really how I'm going to engage with the local, with the county and local cities is really just working with you guys, the community leaders, the commissioners, having listening sessions, really understanding what are concerns that you have and where the focus need to be have, because you know best on what's needed. I'm just there to help advocate for y'all and make sure that we can get the support and pass on to help address any issues you have. And so just really just like having a collaborative effort with all stakeholders to see what issues are there, what's prevalent, what's needed to be done to make that happen, and what's the funding or requirement needs to be done. So I can work with other lawmakers to advocate for these solutions and funding to make that happen.
Mr. Sosa.
Thank you, Chair Harrington, and thank you, Commissioner Fye, for the question. I think that it comes down to communication and relationships. I work regularly on the Hillsborough 2035 committee with members of the city government of Hillsborough to talk about the various needs that the city has. We cover a wide range of issues and topics, and so I think maintaining that dialogue, maintaining those relationships, and really being a conduit to advocate for those things at the state level. The same is true for the district, the school district. I meet regularly with members of the Hillsborough School District administration. I meet with Superintendent Mike Scott every other month, where we talk about what are the needs of the teachers, what are the needs of the students, and the folks who are trying to do the best they can for public education. And I think the same is true at the county level. Maintaining regular communications, meeting, whether it's monthly, whether it's quarterly, with our folks at the city, the county, and local levels, just to ensure that we are having those open lines of communication, that a legislator on the state level is listening and is understanding the needs of the district, and then is advocating for those at the state level to ensure that everybody is being served to the best extent that we can. Thank you.
Sorry, Mr. Weiss.
Thank you. Yeah, well, I want to start by saying that if appointed, this office would not be mine. It would be ours. And I say that because I truly do believe that that this seat belongs to the community, and that includes our local elected officials. I really want to make sure that that we're putting our energy and our effort towards ensuring that we all have a voice and are uplifted through this process, which is why I actually really want to make a local government policy council and have monthly meetings where folks can weigh in on what's happening in the legislature, give voice to folks that maybe for whatever reason something's come up and they need some quick feedback given to whatever's happening. And the short session is actually going to be running pretty quickly, and so I want to have constant communication during session, weekly even, ensuring that I'm listening to the government relations folks with the Washington County Commission and also the counties, because the rest of the counties and the city governments, because I do know that at the end of the day, we all have a job to do in terms of running the state or our local governments. And I don't see the legislature as a means to overstep what is happening locally. I actually see as a way or a way and a means of collaboration and ensuring that we're hearing voices again on the ground for folks who are talking to residents on a daily basis, and ensuring that we give a direct line of communication to folks who are making a lot of the decisions that affect our lives. And so I do want to be that bridge, and I want to make sure that you all are able to be with me in ensuring that we're providing the very best policy for the county.
Mr. Johnson Smith, did you go already on this question? Okay, thank you. Commissioner Fye, did you have any other questions?
No, I do not, Chair Harrington.
All righty, thank you. Well, everyone, the chair usually goes last, whether we're going for questions or comments. So that's why I've been waiting my turn. I'm going to ask a question from an entirely different direction. So we're here in the inevitable position of making an interim appointment one day before a short session starts. Tall order. There's also another tall order. I'm making the assumption that each of the three of you are planning not only to serve in this interim role, but also to run for the position to represent the new House District 30 beginning in 2023. So some folks, but not everyone, know that by virtue of having new information from the census, there's a House District 30 today, and that's the district and the constituents you'll be serving for the remainder of this year, if selected. And then it has an entirely different shape and set of constituents next year. And as the House District 30 rep for this year, you have some big shoes to fill, because the person that has moved to the Senate, Janine Solman, who has been the HD 30 rep for years, excelled at constituent communications and relations, in my opinion. So my question to each of you is, could you please characterize for us what is similar and what is different between the shapes of House District 30 today and then House District 30 of next year and beyond? And we'll go in the same alphabetical order. So Mr. Johnson Smith, Mr. Sosa, and then Mr. Weiss.
Thank you for that question, Chair Harrington. So would District 30 look this year if compared to next year? Right now is during a short session just to focus on help the district with prevalent issues around COVID, economic reform, making sure that people get the resources and support they need at this moment to deal with the pandemic. Because even though things are better 2 years ago, we really don't know how long this will last, but we'll try our best to make a difference. Looking forward in the future, my focus is kind of the focus I came here when I joined the Washington County Democratic Party, is to really support the different constituents and people that make up this county. So really looking at making an effort to make sure everyone is empowered in this district to support themselves, to go for what they want. And so that's just like really engage with different constituents, community leaders, really understanding what has been lacking from state government, local government, and how can I be that voice to help them deal with that. Really be a great opportunity to engage with different people, expand my network, and just really hope by like 2023 with a new district, really have a place where with the growing population and the diverse population, the citizens of this district feel like their voice is heard, they're represented, and they have the support they need to thrive in this district.
Thank you. Mr. Sosa.
Thank you, Chair Harrington. So yes, the current makeup of House District 30 includes not only Hillsborough, but it includes portions of North Plains and Banks, unincorporated areas of the county. When the lines are redrawn and when they take effect next year, it's going to be a much more concentrated district, obviously, in Hillsborough, with much less area for the rural parts of the community. So I think that what's important for the person who takes the seat both now and then in the future is going to be that they're going to this year have to really be sure that they are advocating for the interests of those constituents who are in those rural areas. But also, just given the fact there's going to be a lot of overlap with the district, that they're continuing to advocate for our small business community. which is concentrated in both the current and the future House District 30, which is what I do every week when I'm out there talking to family businesses and trying to help them weather the storm of COVID. I think we're going to have a very diverse population, a population that is going to be seeking a lot of things such as affordable housing, access to childcare, access to healthcare. So I think a lot of the same issues are going to continue to be very important for these constituents. But I do think that at least for this year, there's going to be much more of a rural component that is going to have to be taken into account for whoever is down there in Salem advocating for these folks.
Thank you. Mr. Weiss.
Yes, thank you so much. Yeah, so this last past census, we did a great job in making sure that we were counting folks, especially the hard to count community in House District 30. What we did find is that there's been a huge boom in population, which is why it's so concentrated this time around. And the reason why I'm highlighting this is because not only has the population boomed, but it's been specifically younger folks and people of color that have increased the population. In addition to that, not only do we need to continue to advocate for what we currently have in this district as it relates to the rural parts of Hillsborough, but we also need to make sure that we build policy that incorporates really all types of cities or counties that have both a rural and urban part to it. And I say that because no matter what, the legislator from this district will have to represent not just this district, but all of Oregon, right? We need to make sure that even if and when I'm running for House District 30, the new House District, we need to make sure that we keep those communities and constituencies in mind, and that can't stop no matter how the district lines are drawn. With that being said, we also need to make sure that we're keeping up with the growing population that's here, right? So that does mean that we're providing resources for small businesses to thrive. That does mean that we need to, again, continue to invest in our infrastructure to make sure that folks from all walks of life can get to their jobs, and also make sure that they can do what they need to do in order to thrive. And so I'll make sure to be that representative for everyone, both rural and urban.
Thank you. I just want to check and see if any commissioners had any other questions that you wanted to ask. No? Okay. Well then, this is the point where we will hear closing remarks from each of our candidates. And after that, the commissioners will go into deliberations. So for closing comments, we'll do it in the same alphabetical order as we did opening comments. Mr. Johnson Smith, followed by Mr. Sosa, followed by Mr. Weiss.
Thanks again, Chair Harrington, Commissioners, for the opportunity to be part of this appointment process today. This was fun, and I learned a lot from this process. It's been an interesting journey living here for me the past 3 years. Most of my time has been during the pandemic, but I really have made it this far about support and compassion of the people in Washington County. I want to be here for years to come. This is my new home and help improve this county. I saw this as a great opportunity to take my experience and skill set in the United States to make sure lawmakers are intentional and mindful of how they address pressing issues and make sure there is no community who feel left out in that process. However, the other candidates have the mindset and ability to support this diverse district as well. And if they win, I'm willing to assist them in their endeavors. Servant leader, I'm just here to show up, make a difference however I can, and take care of my new home. So thank you again for the opportunity as well for being part of this process today.
Hi, thank you, Chair Harrington. So I want to begin by thanking all of you for your questions. There are so many challenges confronting our community. If I am appointed, I would dedicate myself to working closely with you and with other officials at the city, county, and regional level to solve our most pressing problems. It's going to take all of us working together. We have to build bridges between the public, the private, and the nonprofit sector, which is what I've done for 7 years on the Hillsborough Schools Foundation. We're going to need to find common ground with people that have very different backgrounds and perspectives than we do. which is what I did as chair of the bipartisan Oregon Government Ethics Commission. We need a representative who can forge good working relationships with other elected officials, something that I've done as an active volunteer with the Washington County Democrats. And we're also going to need an advocate, somebody who can humanize the problems that we face and use those stories to fight for positive change. This is what I do every day as an attorney. Finally, I believe that our next representative should be someone who's dedicated to Hillsborough. I'm honored to have received 65% of the votes from the PCPs who live in this district. I am also the only one of the three candidates who has actually filed to run for this seat. As a lawyer who works in a Renko station, I represent people in this community every day. I work to raise money, to put resources in the hands of our students and our teachers in the Hillsborough School District as president of the Hillsborough Schools Foundation. And I reach out every week to family-owned businesses throughout the city to help them survive and thrive. I want to be a voice for our community down in Salem because I love Hillsborough and because this is my home. Thank you.
I'm not very adept at the mute button today, so thank you, Mr. Johnson-Smith, for your remarks, and to you as well, Mr. Sosa. Mr. Weiss.
Thank you. House District 30 deserves the opportunity to be adequately represented at every level of government by someone who knows and loves this community. I grew up here, and I know what it will take to meet the needs of our district. I've been passing legislation that has made Oregonians' lives better for nearly a decade. And I did that through building strong relationships and coalitions. I'm ready to work alongside local elected officials, community organizations, small businesses, and large employers to make sure all residents of Washington County have the opportunities that they need to thrive. My goal is to bring a balanced viewpoint and strong community values to the legislature. And I believe we can only pass meaningful policy by bringing impacted stakeholders together and by representing everyone, no matter their party affiliation, race, gender, or class. I've worked hard to build and maintain legislative relationships in order to pass life-changing policy with both Democrats and Republicans and in both chambers. If appointed, I want to continue that partnership with you all. I want to reemphasize that this appointment will be about experience and readiness to lead. The legislative session starts in less than 24 hours, and I've had the honor to serve as a commissioner on the Higher Education Coordinating Commission, as a co-chair within the Governor's Social Justice Council, as vice president of the ACLU of Oregon, also as the executive director of the Oregon Student Association and the Oregon Student Foundation. Through these leadership positions, I've learned about what it takes to bring people together to move game-changing policy. My team is already tracking and is ready to support nearly 20 bills that are priorities for Washington County. I'm ready for this moment, and I'm excited to share it with you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Weiss. So commissioners, before we begin our deliberations, I want to share that each of us as Washington County Commissioners has one vote. And the person receiving the highest number of votes will be the person selected to fill the vacancy for House District 30. So at this juncture, commissioners, what are your thoughts? Are there any comments you'd like to share? I will gladly start. I'll break the format, give my colleagues a break. So here we are. We have some really fine candidates to consider for this appointment. They will be challenged to serve in a body that includes several different legislators who've been in their position for quite some time, and they'll be the newest member. Also, it's going to be an intense number of weeks looking ahead. So we've heard quite a bit today about each of these candidates, and I want to thank each of you for speaking with us, sharing your comments with us, and also to thank each of the people who have sent us emails, written to us, and testified today. We've heard a lot about the need for racial justice and equity and support here in our community. And I'm not really thrilled about being in this situation of having to choose today. My commitment to racial justice has been made, it's been very evident by my work from the very beginning of my term here as county chair and throughout the 3 years. And I'm not really thrilled about having to make this choice. It's a really tough choice. I think we have two clear candidates who have exemplary experience already in our community and who have contributed each in their own ways. You each have roots in this area, and you have people who have advocated on your behalf. We have nominees from the party for this interim appointment. And my colleagues know that I am very respectful of process. And so from my standpoint here today, I'm following the principles of respecting the appointment process and the input that we have received from the party. So today I will be making a choice to support Mr. Sosa for the interim appointment. Those are my thoughts. Go ahead, Commissioner Willie.
Thank you, Chair. And I really wanted to say, I guess, a couple of things to them individually. Barry, you did your homework really well. You've lived in Oregon a couple of years now. It was 9 years I'd been living here before I was allowed to come into the city council. So you've got some things. You know, these Oregonians, they're tough, and I'm not a lifelong Oregonian. So, but I just want to commend you for not only stepping out to do that, but how much research you've done, and you were very knowledgeable. So I'd encourage you to please stay in the game. And let's find a spot for you, because we really do need people like you. And I appreciate your willingness to do this. Lamar, you and I have had lots of conversations. I enjoy our conversations together. You also do your homework. You represent yourself, and you represent your organizations very well. So I want to commend you on that. And certainly, I want you to stay engaged as well. I know that you're not going anywhere. I know that you're a Century High School grad, you're Oregon grad. So I know that you're going to be around for a while, and I certainly appreciate your commitment to this. Nathan, you have obviously invested in kind of the process that I've gone through over the 30 plus years I've been in Hillsborough, and that is a little boots on the ground stuff. Your involvement with the Hillsborough Community Schools Foundation, your commitment to other organizations that you've done, your appointment to the Ethics Commission. That's kind of where I've gone through to get to where I am today. And I think that gives you a better sense and a better feel for where you how you can represent your constituency. So thank you again, all three of you, for willing to do this and your commitment to this. And I really feel like we're going to find a place for the two people who aren't appointed today. We want to keep you still in the game. So thank you for that.
Any other commissioner comments?
Sure. After about I don't know how many of these, 20 I've done probably in my career, or 25. I mean, been a lot. I always like to give feedback because I think it's important. Jerry said it well to you, Barry. You really knew and didn't have the experience of the other two. That was obvious from what their backgrounds are, but you're well spoken. So I think it's important that you understand where I was coming from or am coming from. It's just an experience issue. In order, and Nathan, you and I have never met. I have to say I was impressed with your comments You certainly have done a little bit of homework along the line, or maybe it's just been involved, and it came through that you've done what you need to do to at least show your credentials. And Lamar, I don't know what to say. You just keep getting better. You really, in my mind, diversified your portfolio of what you talked about. You and I had a little communication back and forth, and I said you have more to offer than just one or two items. You have a whole array. So I was impressed that you took that advice and went further. Where I come from in all of those appointments is I've always taken what the PCPs have said is where you go. I've only not followed it once, and it was just recently. That's because it was obvious to me that there was some differences, that it was a multi-county kind of thing. But my heart tells me Lamar, my mind tells me that we need to follow the process, much like the chair has said. I'd do that too. And so I will vote for Nathan.
Anything else, colleagues? Go ahead, Commissioner Treese.
Thank you, Chair. And I would like to, as well as my fellow commissioners, thank the three of you for being here. And I echo their comments. And it is a very difficult time to make these decisions. There's no question. I share the chair's angst, if you will, about this. But I do believe that what's going to be important here is to get set, get into the office, get going tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock with a team that's ready to function. I am going to be voting for Lamar. I believe that Lamar has that group in place. I think that his experience speaks to the legislature, and I'm pleased that he's put his name in for the appointment. To Nathan, your experience is also very, very rich and very valuable to this community. I've had the chance to talk with you. I understand a lot of the different pieces that you're putting together, and I respect the work that you do a great deal. So thank you for that. I just feel, again, that Lamar is going to be ready to hit the road with the relationships that are already built there. To Barry, I'd like to talk to you more. I'd like to understand who you are. Thank you for being here. Thank you for participating in this. And thank you for opening your door to us so that we know who you are and what you stand for. It's much appreciated.
All right, Commissioner Fye.
Thank you, Chair Harrington. To the candidates, I'm so sorry I have my camera off today. I'm hoping whoever gets to the state legislature can solve this childcare problems and some childcare resources to Washington County. Not for me to personally use, but for our constituents, which I happen to be a constituent too. Now, I want to say, I agree with everyone, what they said about you. You have a bright future ahead of you, and I was so impressed, so impressed. I agree with Commissioner Treese. Please do reach out to me too. However I can help plug you in, reach out to Commissioner Willie as well, and definitely Commissioner Willie, he's in your district as well, and Commissioner Rogers, every one of us reach out. I really do believe you have a bright civic engagement ahead of you in Washington County, and could see you as a political leader here in Washington County and elected. To Nathan and Lamar, you know how I feel about you both. You both are amazing nominees and great leaders for Washington County, and I'm really impressed, and I do consider both of you to be smarter than me. I think I'm in the, I just think highly of you too. Really appreciate all the work you've done for our communities and great answers. I think your skills speak to it. I'm going to have to align myself with Commissioner Treese and say I will be voting for Lamar because I've seen Lamar's action in Salem, and I really think he'd be able to hit the ground running tomorrow. So thank you both, and to Barry as well. Thank you all three.
All right. Well, I was happy to break the ice. It worked. I think each of the three of you got to hear some very warm comments from the commissioners today. A lot of respect for your experience, what you bring to the table, and the opportunity that you represent. So unless I see a quick unmuting from any commissioners, I think we've completed our deliberations. And with that, Clerk Moss, will you please call the roll for each commissioner's decision?
Yes, Madam Chair. Commissioner Fye.
Lamar.
Commissioner Treese.
Lamar Weiss.
Commissioner Rogers.
Nathan Souza.
Commissioner Willie.
Nathan.
Chair Harrington.
Nathan Sosa. And with that, Nathan Sosa wins the nomination for the interim House District 30 position. Clerk Moss, on a vote of 3-2. Clerk Moss, will you please read the appointment statement?
Yes, Madam Chair. Before the Washington County Board of Commissioners in the matter of filling the vacancy in Legislative Assembly State Representative District 30, whereas pursuant to state law, the Democratic Party precinct committee persons in State Representative District 30 made nominations to fill the vacancy, whereas in accordance with procedures established by the Secretary of State, the Washington County Board of Commissioners considered the nominations at a public meeting on January 31st, 2022. And whereas at the conclusion of the public meeting, the appointing authority voted to appoint Nathan Sosa to fill the vacancy, said nominee as having received the highest number of votes as indicated on the vote tabulation, Exhibit A. Now, therefore, Nathan Sosa is selected as the appointee to fill the vacancy in State Legislative Assembly State Representative District 30. This statement shall promptly be forwarded to the Secretary of State as required by ORS 171-060, Subchapter 3, adopted this 31st day of January 2022. Back to you, Madam Chair.
Oops, let me make sure. Yes, I am unmuted. So thank you very much, everyone. I believe there is no other business before us. So I would like to thank Clerk Moss, our IT team, and our communications team for working to put together this meeting for all of us today. I'd also like to thank our interpretive team for providing their services today so that especially our Spanish-speaking community had the opportunity to participate. And with that, commissioners, I'd like a motion to adjourn. We have a motion from Commissioner Willie, a second from Commissioner Rogers. All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Commissioner Fye?
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 5-0. We are hereby adjourned. Thank you and congratulations, Mr. Sosa. And thank you again to Mr. Weiss and Mr. Johnson Smith for also participating in the process, the appointment process. I know it involved more than just showing up today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.